It finally happened, says Briahna Joy Gray. Crazy how we just had obviously like a week of Briahna being one of the main characters of left Twitter. Not something that she's unaccustomed to, but she was really kind of taking it from the worst of the worst on Twitter. The genocide defenders and all that. And it looks like they were able to pull some powerful strings over at the Hill. The Karens that were mauling over her coverage recently. For what it's worth, we've always known that the Hill was a right-wing publication. It was owned by a massive Trump donor, right? They've always had a history of kind of marginalizing lefty voices. They fired Katie Halper for under similar circumstances, right after she spoke out against the actions of the nation
before October 7th, even. Yeah.
Oh yeah, this was way before October 7th. I believe this was 2 years ago.
Yep.
When the Katie Halper thing went down.
Yep.
So we kind of knew that this was always a potential outcome over at the Hill. It's kind of playing with fire, right? Gavin and I were mentioning on our walk before we did the show today that we've covered a lot of exits from the Hill's rising, whether it's Briahna Joy Gray, whether that was Crystal and Sagar, whether that was Kim Iverson or Katie Halper. They just have they're corporate media, right? You start saying shit that they don't want you to say, and they fire you. And I think the one thing that's always been really important to point out about Rising is that while they have the veneer of an ND news outlet, while they have the veneer of independence on there, it's a corporate news outlet. They've just realized that if they stylize it like a show, like Breaking Points, or like a show like Secular Talk or whatever, then they're going to have more success, because that's kind of the model of the future, right? Whereas the Morning Joe, Fox 5 kind of model is very antiquated at this point.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting point, Zach, because you mentioned that obviously this wasn't exactly surprising. This is something that I've kind of been waiting for, to be honest, not just because of Katie Halper getting fired also for criticizing Israel not that long ago. But when Briahna Joy Gray came on our show a few months ago and I had a conversation with her, I asked her what the climate was like at the Hill, and she didn't exactly seem pleased. I mean, clearly at that point she hadn't been let go yet, but she definitely talked about the culture of soft censorship and how she could tell that the higher ups weren't exactly happy with what she was saying specifically as it related to Israel. Again, I think this is, pretty crazy regardless, because we talked a lot back in the day when Crystal and Sagar originally left the Hill, right? You guys remember that they started Rising back at the Hill 4 years ago, 5 years ago, pretty crazy, right? But what they were able to do, and what I was surprised that the Hill was allowed to sanction, was it genuinely seemed like a non-mainstream, more populist sort of news show that did kind of tap into the more popular internet online political niche that had really exploded in the Bernie era. The TYTs, the Secular Talks, the Jimmy Dore shows, all of that kind of stuff. Those people became frequent and regular guests on the Hill's Rising, and it really did kind of scratch that itch that a lot of other corporate news shows weren't scratching, specifically companies like the Hill. So, it was a great show back in the day. And when Crystal and Sagar left, we were both pretty much saying that the Hill could never recover, that Rising would never be able to successfully continue in any iteration without Crystal and Sagar. However, we were kind of wrong about that. Not only did they hire Kim Iverson, who became quite popular, but also I genuinely think that Briahna Joy Gray and Robby Soave made for a pretty damn good pairing on the mic. The only pairing they've ever had that even comes close, in my opinion, to replicating the chemistry of Crystal and Sagar, the original co-hosts of Rising. So with Briahna Joy Gray and Robby Soave, even though they didn't like what Brie was saying necessarily, she was actually kind of, saving the entire show, making it watchable, kind of staying true to the original idea of what Rising was, having one guy on the left, one woman on the left and one guy on the right. It really worked. So now I just really struggle to see how the Hill's Rising is going to recover after this. I don't think that anyone else is going to be able to fill Briahna Joy Gray's shoes. I can't imagine finding much, value out of watching Robby argue with someone who's not Briahna. They just had such a good chemistry, a good rapport. And yeah, it got feisty. We've covered the multiple times where Robby behaved in a downright unprofessional manner, but still it was a good show.
Yeah, I think that was part of the vibe, right? I think that was part of what made it special and unique was that they were going to be confrontational, right? One of the things that we've constantly bemoaned, one of the many things we've bemoaned about the downfall of TYT was that they stopped having debates. It really stopped being about discourse and it started to become about affirmation.
Yep.
It became about us against them. Oh, this isn't the real left if you don't agree with us. Oh, we're not going to have a wide range of perspectives on. And if we are, they're going to be like weird right-wing Republican perspectives that we're going to entertain instead of like differences of niche opinions on the left. And of course, on Rising, it was a different model. They kind of borrowed from what Crystal and Sagar had established, which was the balance of power between a Republican leaning figure and then a lefty leaning figure, right? And how those people would be at odds and how they would see the news, with the different perspectives. And then the audience was able to kind of make up their own mind given these two, alternative viewpoints. Yeah, I mean, they're probably going to get somebody milquetoast to go on there and replicate, more mainstream liberal values. They're going to try and have somebody with more, morning Joe politics, more MSNBC politics. And try and go that route, which I think is destined to flop. If we have time later on in the episode, Gavin and I can react to one of our early hits on the Vanguard, which was us absolutely demolishing. I'm not kidding or exaggerating when I say that I'm pretty sure Gavin and I got these people terminated. We're pretty sure we got their it was like a day later. This video went absolutely bonkers. Okay, I remember Gavin and I were really flattered because I don't think you're supposed to share these things, but we'll pat ourselves on the back. There were multiple people in media that had far more success than Gavin and I will ever have reached out to us and told us it was hilarious. And we were like, holy shit, maybe we actually can do these things. That was many, many moons ago. So you guys will get to see long-haired, bearded Zac and even longer-haired Gavin. Yep. Straight up metal locks on Gavin. Anyway, but yeah, we can pull up this thread from Briahna because she does announce her official leave. And then I think if we just go ahead and hit this one right here, Gavin, it'll be a little more. Gotcha. We can rebalance this out, I guess. But anyway, we can do this for now. But it'll show more of us on the screen because we don't have two cameras. But anyway, do you want to go ahead and plow into this, Gavin? Yeah, might as well. So Briahna posted this last night around, I think, maybe 5 p.m. Probably would have gone live, but we weren't able to. Anyway, Brie said, it finally happened. The Hill has fired me. There should be no doubt that at Rising, the Hill has a clear pattern of suppressing speech, particularly when it's critical of the state of Israel. That's why they fired Katie Halper, and it was only a matter of time before they fired me. And she says you can follow me at patreon.com/thebadfaithpodcast, which I imagine she's going to be, creating more content than usual for going forward, given that I guess this is kind of her gig now. And until she finds something else, if she wants to, I imagine she will be posting more on the Bad Faith podcast. And I'm looking forward to hearing her talk more about this. This is also interesting. She clarifies that also, to be clear, Robby did not know, has objected, and shouldn't be blamed. So right off the bat, when she posted this, a lot of people immediately said things like, oh, was it Robby's fault? Did he go to the manager? Did he demand that Briahna be fired? Something like that. As we said, we've covered a multitude of borderline, if not straight up unprofessional outbursts from Robby. But Briahna is clarifying here that, to be clear, Robby did not know this was going to happen and that he has objected. So, I mean, we have to give Robby credit for that. Do you think there's any chance, Zac, that Robby quits in solidarity? No. See, here's the thing. Here's what I would have immediately thought about Robby. One, that this didn't come from him. That's not something that I would have anticipated from Robby. He doesn't seem like a cry to your corporate manager because of the way that a debate went down at work kind of guy to me. I disagree with him mammothly on all kinds of political issues, and sometimes I think he pitches a fit on air. But he doesn't strike me as like a weaselly kind of, I'm going to go to my boss. Like, especially if you are familiar with how Briahna and Robby have, kind of bantered and engaged with each other on Twitter when they're not working. It kind of seems like they have an agreement that they're willing to lock horns as hard as they fucking can on air and then let it go, which I think is another thing that's really valuable, at least from a content perspective, right? I understand it's harder than it seems, or it's harder than it sounds to just, let things go at the end of the discourse. But I think for for the purpose of the content that they were creating, I think it's actually, a decent move. And so with all that being said, no, I also don't think he's going to fucking quit in solidarity. I mean, it's a soft seat for Robby and the audience loves him there. He's just going to be like, oh, that was a tough corporate decision, but I'm not the editor here. I'm not the one that makes those decisions here, and probably move on. And you really can't ask the dude to fucking quit in solidarity. It's not like they're, Yeah. I mean, Brie didn't quit in solidarity when Katie Halper was fired. So, and, I remember she had a
couple videos at the time where she was kind of pondering whether she should quit. I think some people in her audience persuaded her to stay because they were like, if you don't do this, then who is going to? If you're not providing this perspective, then nobody will on this platform. And I think that, I think Briahna was right to stay as long as she did and kind of just like, grit her teeth and take home the check while also spreading as much leftist perspective as possible on the platform, which I think she did a really good job of doing. Zach and I have always given her credit. I think she's one of the best people when it comes to debating the Israel-Palestine situation. She really is an excellent debater. So, I think she made the right decision. But like you said, Zach, it was really only a matter of time until this went down.
And I think that's why we have to remind ourselves constantly, right? There's always the temptation in this field. I mean, Gavin and I feel it all the time because I'll talk to people in my real life, and they'll be like, oh, yeah, how many viewers does your show get? And I'll be like, oh, we just hit 34,000 subs. And they'll be like, oh, my gosh, like, have you talked to ad sponsors? I'm sure there are people that would, advertise with you guys. I'm sure you guys could, really leverage that. Like, why are you still working all these shifts at the bar kind of stuff? Like, I don't know. I'd be doing something else if I were. And I'm like, yeah, listen, man, we're not going to read ads. I'm not going to tell everybody to go buy my pillow or fucking dildos for their asses. If they want that, they can fucking buy it anyway. You know what I'm saying? Because it starts
ionic minerals.
It starts to unravel, right? It all goes from there because one day you're just, you're selling dick pills, that belong at the gas station and it's a gag, right? Like you'll be like Johnny Bones Jones takes these motherfuckers and he's, and he's power drilled a lot of bitches. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, I'm not going to fucking do that kind of content. And I'm also not going to sell you gold or athletic greens or any kind of horse shit, right? And that's the first step. But then once you get all the way to like corporate media, those people are beholden to like shareholders. Those people are beholden to create dividends, right? They're just not going to allow you to do anything that's going to fuck up their bread, period, right? So that means that you're not going to be able to spend long enough of researching what you want to research. That means you're not going to be able to run your mouth about shit that you want to run your mouth about. That means you can't ask certain questions to the audience because they don't want the audience being asking themselves those questions, and they sure as shit don't want you to ask those questions to the audience, right? That's how they'll start to govern you. That's how they'll start to dictate you. And I think that we always have to keep that in the front of our mind because right now it's such a lull for progressive media, right? So when people have a certain standard of what they're anticipating, right? When people have a certain like income threshold, right? It's really hard to ask people to just fuck that shit up, right? At the end of the day, we're all people, depending on where you live in the country, you want to buy a house, you want to be able to retire one day, right? People who work in media are regular people too, right? So of course there's the temptations there that capitalism imposes on all of us. But I think that times like this, it's really important to remind ourselves why, and obviously Gavin and I, we can't put ourselves in the, shoes of anybody else. We would never have these opportunities. So I can't be like, well, I would say no to this, right? Because nobody would ever offer that shit to me, right? Nobody would ever be like, hey, do you want to be on fucking Rising? Like I didn't go to Harvard Law School. I wasn't Bernie Sanders press secretary. Wasn't an editor at The Intercept. You know what I'm saying? I don't have any credentials. So of course I can be like, fuck everybody. Like I'll turn away my extra $800 a month in solidarity. But if somebody was offering us like $500,000 a year in contracts, then you have to have real solidarity. Then you have to be on your Nelson Mandela shit, right? Then you have to be on your like fucking Muhammad Ali. Why do you think we got a picture up there? Do you want to be Ali or do you want to be Sonny Liston kind of a deal? It's just the way it goes. It's the way it goes. You know what I mean? Sometimes when you decide to bite the bullet and get in the ring with the fucking killer, you end up flat on your back. And that's what happens most of the time when you decide to try and speak your truth from the mouthpiece of corporate media. And that's why we've all fucking turned against it for a while, at least. And now it seems like it's kind of creeping its way back in. And that's why outlets like Breaking Points are really important because Breaking Points is a truly independent outlet. They are, whether I think that Sagar is a lunatic, with his fucking reefer madness and his, poor takes on the economy, what all the things that I disagree with Sagar on, right? He's not taking money from anyone else. These are Sagar's bad ideas. These are Sagar's bad opinions. These are his poor takes on the political situation we found ourselves in. Right?
Yeah.
His simping for Israel. Hey guys, why are you fucking up your future when you could be getting your bread? Like, oh yes, I'm sorry that like posing ethnic cleansing gets in the way of fucking stacking checks, bruh. Like, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, she should go to Breaking Points too. Gavin and I talked about how it would be. I mean, obviously, we're not in charge of anything over there. We don't know what the fuck's going on over there. We're just two guys that have big mouths and a lot of opinions. I think that it would be a great home for Briahna. I think that she would excel there. We have a tweet from Crystal Ball that we can throw up where she was, showing intense solidarity with Briahna. Let's see if we can throw this up on screen really quick. It's not impossible, right? Crystal says, yet another person fired for daring to support Palestinian humanity. I have no doubt Brie Joy will continue to find great success outside of corporate media, but these attempts to silence pro-Palestine voices are meant to intimidate those who don't have Brie's fortitude and ability to withstand the attack. So a great compliment to Briahna Joy Gray from Crystal Ball, and 100% correct.
Yep.
I don't think Brianna's going anywhere. They're not going to be able to keep her down. They're not going to be able to silence her. She's a fighter. She's going to come out here and she's going to say what the fuck she has to say. That's why I have so much respect for Briahna. Even when we disagree. I
think Crystal makes a good point here too when she says that these attempts to silence pro-Palestine voices are meant to intimidate those who don't have Brie's fortitude and ability to withstand the attacks. You guys obviously know that, Briahna cut her teeth as the freaking press secretary for Bernie Sanders. She's used to the incoming fire. She's used to media smears. Obviously, I remember at the time people were saying all kinds of crazy shit about Briahna Joy Gray, disgusting things.
Never mind. I don't want to be wrong about this, but didn't somebody say something fucked up like the island of misfit black girls?
There was stuff like that.
Yeah,
I remember people would call her and Nina Turner like the progressive, like Diamond and Silk and stuff like that.
What the fuck?
They would obviously go with all of the, you're a self-hating woman or whatever because you're like supporting Bernie Sanders. And he's a misogynist. Those arguments. Yeah. So, Briahna Joy Gray is
husband of Jane Sanders.
Yeah. Anyway, Briahna, she's used to the attack. She's used to the smears. She's probably more used to that than like 99% of people in media. But Crystal's 100% right. These attacks, it's meant to send a message to younger, more naive, less battle-tested journalists and people who want to have a career in politics or media. And the message is very clear. These opinions are permissible, and these ones will prevent you from climbing the career ladder and getting, better positions at higher paying networks and stuff like that. Obviously, if Brianna's lucky enough to find a job, it will most likely be at a more independent outlet like Breaking Point, something like that. But yeah, obviously, if she was trying to move up the ladder and eventually work at like MSNBC or something, this would certainly disqualify her. Which again is the point. That's the message they're trying to send. And obviously, Briahna doesn't care. She has integrity. She's not going to be easily threatened or silenced or anything like that. Clearly not. She speaks her mind regardless of the consequences, and that's one of the reasons why we've always given her so much credit, even when we disagree. But yeah, that's of course the point.
Yeah. Do you want to plow into some of these super chats before we dig a little deeper? Really appreciate everybody. We've been making some big upgrades here at the show, as you guys can see, and while it's not perfect yet, while we're still, working through everything, we've been, trying to make the streams a little more professional. Can't do that without the lovely help of you guys. So shout out to you, Shane OWV, excuse me. Brie was the only reason to watch that trash network. Batya will be back soon to ramp up the pro-Israel propaganda. You're probably not wrong about that. I wouldn't be surprised if they got like a wannabe Pod Save America bro type of a person to come in there and fill in for Brie and fuck it all up. And I don't think we'll react to much rising content after this. It's a joke network.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree, Shane. Brie was genuinely the only reason to watch that network. And she wasn't even the only person I technically agree with. I also, generally am a fan of Jessica Burbank's commentary. I think she's pretty.
But she's not slandering our dog Kyle, bro.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, calling him paid media. I was like, bro, what the fuck are you talking about? You literally no.
Yeah, no. My point is, Jessica, I like her politics. Obviously, we're in alignment, and I think her content on TikTok has really exploded for obvious reasons. She's really talented, but for whatever reason, I just never felt like her skill set quite transferred to the rising setting.
Reminds me a lot of the kids in elementary school who would pretend to be horses. Like she gives me a big like horse girl energy. That's I've never been able to think about it. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's just like when I tune in, I'm like, oh yes, you're the person that pretends you're not on a corporate network, throws shots at people who are actually doing the hard work of independent, broadcasting. And then also, I feel like you used to ran around and gallop and say no at recess time. I don't know.
Yeah. There's something about her delivery that's a little more dry, and it doesn't seem like she just Brie just really gets passionate. You say one thing she disagrees with, and it's like, all right, we're off to the races.
Expressive. Yeah, that's part of broadcasting.
Yeah. Sometimes Jessica just seems a little bit bored, which, to be fair, her co-host is really fucking boring. So it's not that it's not really her fault, I don't think. But my point is just that even if they were to replace Brie with Jessica, I don't think it would have the same chemistry. I don't think that her and Robby would make for as entertaining a pairing of co-hosts. And again, despite my many disagreements with Robby, that's undeniable that they do have a very specific kind of chemistry that's hard to replicate in the same way I think that Crystal and Sagar do. I don't think that Brie and Robby were as dynamic a duo as Crystal and Sagar, but like I said, I think it was about as close as Rising could ever hope to come, as far as replicating what they had with that original dynamic. So yeah, it's definitely no good. And obviously we've barely even mentioned Kim Iverson, who also left after they, I guess, didn't allow her to interview Dr.
Kim
Fauci.
Iverson, when she started balling, she was young. And we can put up on screen here. I've got it bookmarked, I believe, for us. The like actual clip of what like her eye roll right here.
Yeah, this is what a lot of people think is the like final straw that but caused the Hill to.
Thank you. Me too.
A lot of Zionist accounts started posting this clip as some sort of gotcha proving Briahna Joy Gray's like anti-Semitism or whatever, and obviously completely removing the rest of the context of the conversation. But yeah, do you want to play this, Zach, so people can see the shocking gotcha, the smoking gun?
Won't believe women.
Yeah,
she just won't believe women.
Thank you. Me too. And I really hope that you specifically will believe women when they say that they got hurt.
All right. Thanks for joining. Stick around. More Rising coming up next.
Boom. Okay, so that's what everybody was pissing their pants about. And honestly, it's been kind of the way that they've been ending a lot of Rising segments. She probably just thought that was the new protocol. She was just like, whenever you're really tired of this dumb person talking over, saying some, crazy shit. And even guys, I don't know if we've pulled up or I don't know what Gavin's going to pull up right now, but there's the article that Ryan Grimm tweeted out this morning that was basically like, hey guys, this is just another, look into the,
Did you bookmark it?
No, I didn't hear. Let me pull it up really quick. This is just another example of how there was no real evidence of the weaponization of rape, which is exactly what Briahna was telling this lady that she was full of shit about. So let's see here. Ryan posts so much, but here we go. We will present. Yeah. So this comes like the day that she's fired. Israel says Hamas weaponized rape. Does the evidence add up? The Israeli government insists that Hamas formally sanctioned sexual assault on October 7, 2023. But investigators say the evidence does not stand up to scrutiny. Catherine Phillip and Gabriel Weingartner report on 8 months of claim and counterclaim. New major investigation. The Israeli government, blah, blah, blah. Investigators found the evidence does not stand up to scrutiny. As Israel had not allowed, the mandate can only be fulfilled, blah, blah, blah. Reasonable grounds to believe that there had been rape. There was no reasonable grounds. There's also, if you look up IDF torture, there was a story from today. I can't type. I'm such a boomer. This is why we never, ever, ever upgraded our... Oh, God, why are we getting this? What's going on? The audio's fucked up now. Oh, my God. Okay, guys, this is hell for me. I hate when things change. Anyway, inside the base where Israel has detained thousands of Gazans, and then you read this here. Female officer had ordered 2 soldiers to lift him up and press his rectum against a metal stick that was fixed to the ground. So we have a word for that. That's called, fucking bludgeoning, sodomy, fucking torture. Made me sit on something like a hot metal stick, and it felt like fire. And also said that another detainee died after they put the electric stick up his anus. Said he too had been forced to wear nothing but a diaper to stop him from soiling on the floor. So this, meanwhile, is what's actually documented to have happened and occurred. But of course, Briahna's getting fired for denying something that did not occur and has been consistently.
Yeah.
proven.
And what I wanted to just pull up is a tweet actually from Michael Tracy that I thought was pretty on point. Let me show you guys this over here. Sorry, we're still kind of figuring out the screen sharing thing. But yeah, Michael Tracy, who I don't always agree with, but sometimes he makes good points. He says, it seems Briahna Joy Gray very mildly rolled her eyes when the guest obnoxiously personalized the exchange and instructed her to believe women. Whatever your views on the October 7th rape claims, there that's obnoxious. Briahna would have been justified in rolling her eyes far more egregiously. So again, you can think that it was rude to
Static.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, you can think that it's like rude. You can call it rude for Briahna to have rolled her eyes. I suppose you can call that, unprofessional or something. If you're interviewing a person on a news show and as a host you roll your eyes at them, but it doesn't seem like cause for firing, especially after we've seen so much unprofessional behavior exhibited from Brie's co-host, who's done a lot more than just roll his eyes numerous times on air. So I just think that's ridiculous. It's total, pearl clutching over some just kind of like civility issue that has nothing to do with the actual substance. If Briahna had said, go fuck yourself to this lady, I think we'd all understand the decision. But come on, that's completely ridiculous. And like I said, even Robby has kind of emoted or, used body language to express his frustration. That happens all the time. Everyone does that. It's ridiculous to ask somebody just to, not express themselves physically.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. And then you come in here and we've got another banger from Briahna Wu. Notice you're blaming Israel and not, yourself. Yeah, that's because she didn't get herself fucking fired for eye rolling. There was definitely an outside campaign pressure. And what's crazy is one of the stories that Rogan used to tell back in the day, and this is a long time ago, guys, because obviously nobody's listened to Rogan in like 5 years, but Abby Martin used to be a really good guest on his show back when he would just interview people. And one of the things that he talked about was how after he had her on his show, he would always get thousands of emails from people who were extremely pissed off about it. Yeah. And he was like, I don't know. I don't give a shit. I do whatever I want on this show. But I'm always like, Jesus Christ, that's a lot of emails. I'm like, Jamie, just spam all those fuckers. Like, you know what I mean? He was like, this is crazy. Like, and I imagine something along those lines happened at the Hill. They were like, we are going to, X, Y, and Z. We're going to boycott you. The Hill, how can you be platforming this, crazy anti-Semitism and all this, nonsense, and basically got her fired and suppressed her speech. So, yeah.
Total excuse, though, the whole eye roll thing, if that's really what it is. Also, Zach, if you click on that actual image that Brie posted, pretty funny. It says, Dear Briahna Joy. I think they spelled her name.
They do spell her name wrong.
Which is
it looks like it's a typo, but hey.
Dear Briahna Joy, without the H. This is 30 days.
Oh no, they do it twice. It's not a typo.
No. This is 30 days written notice that your consulting services agreement is being terminated pursuant to the provisions of Section 5.3 for convenience. So some people have said that they would like to see what Section 5.3 is. I guess I would also be interested in that. They go on to say, thank you for your contributions, and we wish you the best in your future endeavors. Sincerely yours. So yeah, pretty interesting. Do you have any idea what that Section 5.3 thing might be?
No.
The clause of their contract that says they can fire you for whatever the hell they want to
do. Workplace conduct, on-air conduct, diverging and, whatever. I don't know. It might just be pursuant to that Section 5.3. It could just say, hey, they have to provide you with 30 days written notice before they can terminate your contract. It could be as simple as that. It could just be saying, hey, we have part of our contract agreement with you. Because it says that, your consulting services agreement. So she's like she's like a contracted employee, right? So she doesn't have like the actual HR right. She doesn't have all of the right to know why they're firing her. What they do is they just have in her contract that I imagine that they signed and agreed to with her that she would get 30 days notice. And that's what I would imagine. That's what Section 5.3 is.